This is iRacing.
Well, Heroes last week provided some of the best racing this season when it came to the GTPs, and we decided we want to stay in Europe for another one of those FIM-style tracks. You see it there, Gorino di Aragon, otherwise known as Circuito di Alcanis. Welcome to Motorland Aragon for round 5 of the IMSA Vintage Series, live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello, everybody. I am Craig King, and in the booth with me today is Joseph Black. Our director is Christian Duploy, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Outer, a layout not used anywhere apart from practice for Le Mans. To find out more about this unique layout, let's go to the GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Motorland Aragon. About an hour and a half west of the Mediterranean coast, this scenic but dusty course is a more recent addition to the Spanish motorsports landscape. Built to replace a dangerous street circuit in the nearby town, it's become a hub of modern racing for the country. Motorcycles are its most famous draw, but it does see sports cars and lower-level open-wheelers visit frequently. Plus, its warm climate makes it ideal for winter testing. Its 7 layouts range between 1.5 to just over 3 miles with 12 to 18 turns. Its most iconic feature is no doubt the towering wall between turns 7 and 13 that accentuate the dramatic elevation changes. However, the difficult Sacacorcho chicane easily has the greatest drop over the shortest period. Reminiscent of Laguna Seca's corkscrew, this right-left flick leads onto a pretty long acceleration zone, even in the GP layout, so it'll be important to get that exit right. Expect most passes into turn 1 are down at the hairpin of 16. But for those who haven't gotten enough of high-speed sweepers, the motorcycle and outer layouts include one final blast uphill and into a tricky late apex. Technical and picturesque, Aragon offers up a little bit of everything and is a versatile facility. It's easy to see why it was quickly embraced by both Spanish fans and race fans worldwide.
Oh, Joseph, we see the elevation changes there, and we see what is in store for the drivers, but very interesting for the multi-class aspect at this track.
Certainly is. Big fan of multi-class racing. We have just a touch under 5 kilometers and just a touch over 3 miles of circuit to be racing here today. As you mentioned earlier, not to be seen very often, and it's an incredibly long back straight. Pretty much from Marc Marquez turn 10 down to turn number 13, you are going completely flat out, and that should make for some very good racing, some very easy lapping. But if you catch them in that first sector, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, that first sector, very tricky for the drivers. And also one of the things they have to worry about is a lot of anti-cut curbs and also some slowdowns. The last time we came to the outer layout, the GTO race was decided off an off-track going around the outside of turn 14. And that decided the race, and it was very interesting. But before we get to those GTOs, let's look at the championship standings, of course, for the GTPs. And well, as we usually say, it usually is Valenteis' world and we're all living in it. But Jacob Reed has just been on fire this season right behind. And Pepe Fuentes as well. He has just been trying to fight with them. And the underdog, Alessia Jack, will be there in 4th position with David Ricciardi as well in 5th. Gabriel Martinez trying to build on a fantastic end to last season, still there in 6th. Henning Swebeg will take 7th with Brendan Lim in 8th. Jack Wells 9th with Ethan Platon in 10th. And shout out, of course, to Milo Dicciari, who is there just a couple points behind in 11th. The GTO Championship looking somewhat similar today, I must say, Joseph.
Yeah, looking very similar, of course. Joran van Heesch up at the top and holding that position of Van Hixie, even as Noel Lunneberg in 2nd place. Jonny Hagner in 3rd, and Mickey Friesen, those top 4 split by less than 20 points. Doug Cloud on 25 points behind Joran van Hixie, and Ian Haycox, Josh Brain, Andrea Schuster, Sam Skovgaard, and Ilka Kotisalo round out the top 10 in the GTO class. And, well, that one, again, like the other one, could be switched on a dime.
Yeah, anything could be switched. And of course, we are round 5, and well, round 5 means that we are still in the 40-minute format. Not had our hour-long races yet, but of course, it is that open setup as we talk about drive what you want to make, and community make their own setup to help everybody. But you crash, you're done. You don't get any spare car today. It's one and done for the drivers. Drive-through will be at 17 incident points, which we did talk about may happen today with some of these off-tracks. DQ will be at 25, not additional penalties, but it will be a DQ at 25. Will be very interesting as qualifying at the moment going on a cold morning here at Aragon with a strength of field for the GTPs of 3,500 for the GTOs today. This is quite a packed single split today out there. Could be very interesting at the top of the table as we look. There is the outline there. You can just see, you see the chicane at the bottom there. We're not using it today. It's that long straight, and that promises to open up a lot of overtaking opportunities.
It certainly does, not just lapping opportunities like I alluded to earlier, but also those overtaking opportunities. If you can set yourself up well out of Marc Marquez, that is the most important corner out on the circuit here today. But of course, there is plenty. There is 13 for these drivers to contend with, and we'll be seeing them contend with them over the next 5 minutes and 35 seconds. Davide Ricciardi, we were watching on board with. Now we're having a look at Jacob Reed, who's of course challenging for that title in the GTP class, and he's at the very top of that field, seeing if he can establish himself as one of the prime contenders here at the start of this qualifying session.
Jake Sperry would say the Worcester man, and we do expect to see Jacob put that on to maybe pole, maybe to the top of the table. And at the moment, he throws in a 21-1, and with the way the track temperature is at the moment, the track times at the moment are a little bit faster than what they have been, or slower than what they have been. 20.6 fastest time this week for some of these drivers for the qualifying. As Timothy Reed goes into P2 with Jacob Reed, IB4E in this situation, as goes across. And you can just see, this is what the drivers have to deal with. You can't see those anti-cut curves until the very last moment. They're almost like sausages like you would get in America.
Yeah, practice is so important when you go around this circuit. And of course, there was another demonstration of those American sausage curves, but of course not actually. Here in America, we're in Aragon here today, and that's Jacob Reed opening up onto the back straight. That's the demonstration of what I was talking about. He's flat out now, and he will remain flat out for an incredibly long time. I want to get a timer on it, but I haven't quite done so yet, as he currently does hold that pole position in the GTP class. In the GTO class, it was split by 7 thousandths of a second, but Mickey Friesen goes up and sets the fastest lap to beat Young and Schuster. The laps are coming in. These cars look and feel incredibly fast around this Aragon circuit, and that's a little bit of a slide caught by Jacob Reed, but that's going to lose him a tenth or two up to the line end for Reed, and it's not going to be an improvement. It's going to be actually 3 tenths that he's lost out by, and that means that that is going to be his best lap. Mickey Friesen here, currently on that pole position in the Audi 90 GTO, and hoping to beat his 1:35.723.
Hoping he can beat it. We've got Mickey Friesen again, looking like Bane as per usual. And it's interesting that was 2 tenths slower for Jacob Reed, and it could be costly because Farron Grau couldn't beat him. Neither could Jack Wells or Timothy Reed. That's a very tight top 4. And we see Farron Grau's just actually gone pole, and Valenteus has put it in 5th. So very good time for Farron Grau. We watched Mickey Friesen. This is the different. No, I was going to say this is the difference is Mickey's just lost out there, and 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flip, 4, 5, 6, 7. I tell you what, James Bond doesn't have to worry too much about his record for most flips going there as we get on board with the man in the yellow and the blue, Valenteus.
Yeah, Audrius Valenteus, of course, only down in 6th place at the moment. He'll be expecting to be further up the field, and he'll be hoping to be further up the field as well, taking victory earlier on in the Lotus 49s, and he's switching from the single-seaters to one of these beautiful cars, the Nissan GTP, and, well, it's one of the most unique-looking cars that you will ever see, and with those beautiful Ukrainian colours of yellow and blue, they complement each other really nicely, as does the number 1 on the car. That goes to help as well. He's going to try and beat his 1:21.292, which he currently holds, and well, he's going to try and beat Grau's time up at the very top of the field. Jacob Reed up there on that front row. Can Valenteus knock him off? As of course down onto the main straight comes the number 1. Is he going to be able to beat his lap time? Is he going to be able to find his way into the 20s, which is basically what you need for that pole position? A 20.9 would be good enough for Audrius Valenteus. The final corner then he's going to come out of, and he is flat out right now. It's going to be a 1:21.201, so it's not pole position for Valenteus. 4th place will be disappointing for the man with very high standards.
A shocker again. Another good qualifying for Valentine. Gabriel Martinez just set a time 1,000 faster than Jacob Reed. Absolute insanity. They look identical. Technically, as we're watching Noel Lundberg, technically Reed would be first. But when you look at the timings, there is a small difference there. That is massive. Noel Lundberg will come across the line. He wants to try and stamp this pole position, and he won't go. He actually goes he doesn't go faster. He just held on there. Mickey Friesen's already given up. Theo Charret as well. I'm looking. There's only one driver, I think, who could make a difference. And is that Cowie Young? I see. No, it's Johan Van Hicks who's just taking some laps. So looking around, this looks to be all she wrote. One last driver just going around. I think it's Henry Viamaki, as he's not set a timing lap. Andre Felipe Diaz also getting some time in there. So these drivers just getting a few sighting laps. And that's important because, again, this isn't a track the drivers see a lot of. Last seen in the series, I think, a year ago.
Yes, and, well, these drivers are getting used to it very, very quickly, and it's actually very, very close with all the drivers at the moment. The top 7 in the Audi 90 GTOs at the moment that we can see are split by 6.5 tenths, and the top 7 in the GTPs, they're split by just over 3 tenths of a second, so very, very tight in both of these fields, and I think we're set for an absolute corker.
Set for an absolute carnage here today. And of course, we're not saying carnage in the light sense here. There's a lot of things happening in the world today and a lot of things happening on sim. But even still, we've got a strong 40-car field as qualifying ends for today. And let's get to the grid because one man we haven't seen a lot of for a couple seasons. Well, this season, I mean, Farron Grau, the number 15 car, takes the pole position away from another fantastic qualifying by Gabriel Martinez. And then it's the championship rivals, Reed and Valenteus, 3rd and 4th. Jack Wells will be behind, trying to rekindle that fight between those two last week. In 5th, Christophe Lesijak, he's still there in the championship. He's in 6th. Then it's Timothy Reed with an E in 7th. Henning Swevik will take 8th. Brendan Lim 9th. Laus Olsen makes a return. He'll be there in 10th. And then behind them, well, the battle of the GTP lights. Diego Mastretta, Emilio Cicciari, Davide Ricciardi will be there. Fabian Youngblood will be 14th. Ivan Rico Gez will take 15th. Javier Mascara will be 16th. Jason Keddy will take that 17th position. Then it's Andre Felipe Diaz in 18th. Eki Anderson will be 19th. Last of the time qualifiers. Seamus Power and Joseph Rafais not setting a time in 20th and 21st. GTOs, there's 19 drivers.
There is, so slightly less than the GTPs, and we'll be seeing who is on that, who is in that grid, because of course we saw those up the top of the field. Noel Lundberg even with that pole position, Theo Schley on alongside him on that front row, Mickey Friesen and Andreas Schuster on that second row of the field, Joran Van Hicks and Cal Young on the third. Josh Brain, Doug Cloud, Jonny Hagner and Ilka Kotisalo will round out the top 10 and the top 5 rows in the GTO field. And well, I know it says that they've got no times on. That is not true. There we go. There's the times that we have for ourselves. Kotisalo 2 tenths slower, and Turban Palek just in behind him. Remco Snell only 2 thousandths off of Palek in 12th spot. Sintez Galindo in 13th place alongside Ian Haycox on the 7th row of the grid. Then it's Martin Krejcirich, Jonny Berg, Jamie Hamill-Smith, Richard Heinemann and Henry Varamaki to round out the 10 rows. Of course, the final row being a just one car on it, but rounding out the 10 rows of the GTOs.
Yeah, we've got 40 cars here today. Quite a big split when you think about the level of the track, as the pace car will launch off and Farron Grau for Pushrod Racing will lead them off. It's been a while we've seen a Pushrod Racing car lead them. Can't remember the last time it was Farron Grau. Usually it used to be Aitor Sintez Galindo, who now driving that boxy boy known as the Audi GTO. A little bit of information when it comes to the weather, and it's very interesting when it comes to the weather today because it is 22 Celsius track temperature. It's 71 Fahrenheit. Shouldn't get warmer. It's quite humid out there. A key thing, though, it's a southwesterly wind of 14 kilometers an hour. That's noticeable. And if you want to know where north is, well, the start-finish line is going slightly northwest-west, or west-northwest, if you get that nautical thing. So that's going to be a little bit of a side wind through a lot of these corners today.
Yes, there certainly is, which is going to throw a lot into the thinking of the drivers. They've got a lot to think about already, but this circuit barely traversed by anybody, as you mentioned at the top of the broadcast. It will be one of learning for every single one of these drivers. We have seen it before, but this time it's just going to feel a little bit new, and it's going to take a couple of laps just to get ready and just to get yourself set to have a look at this circuit and just get a sight to wrap. But of course, they're not going to do that. They're just going to scrap some more, and well, they're currently behind the pace car and ready to get underway.
Getting the tyres warming up as much as they can. It's going to be interesting to see who gets the better run here, because we talked about that strength of field, and we said it's the number 15. Remember, the number 15, that's the iRacing rank here in the server. So Ferran Grau's a 4,500 iRating driver. Gabriel Martinez is a 5.6 driver. Behind them, the number 2 and the number 1 car, 7,500 and 8,500 iRating. Remember, Valenteas was a 9K driver, and that's a 9K driver from just classic racing. So we always talk about the words alien, and I do feel that what we've got today is we've got 2 aliens out there when it comes to this sort of racing. And then the GTOs, as we have seen them for a moment, that's also going to be interesting. Expect a lot of pack racing on the straights for those GTOs, because this is a very long straight, as we mentioned. And how many times have we mentioned that long straight? Was it 24 seconds you counted, Joseph, in a Mazda MX-5 down this straight?
It certainly would be around 24.5 seconds in a Mazda MX-5. It's going to be a little bit quicker, I think, in some of these GTOs, but in the GTPs even. The GTOs might be a similar lap time, but yeah, they are just behind the pace car, and everybody is looking very, very ready. This is certainly one of the most exciting circuits that these drivers will head to, and well, it's the Playboy livery on the front row alongside the more classical-looking IMSA livery. So these drivers are. Well, they're set, they're ready, they've prepared, and they're just waiting for the iRacing safety car to pull into the pits.
We wait for the iRacing Porsche safety car to go into the pit. Henning Schwerbeck taking a pit lane start. Theo Charret had a grain crash. That will throw Andreas Schuster to the front row. So that's going to be interesting for the GTO field. But as the pace car slowly gets ready to come in, Ferran Grau will control them, and it's quite a run to the start line. So how long will he hold them? Will he wait to see if he can catch Gabriel Martinez out? 40 minutes of Aragon. We get ready to go very shortly. Pace car is in. We wait patiently for Ferran Grau, and he does do that catch-off, and it's a real good start for Ferran Grau, and that means it's a great start. There is a big check-up and a big crash with a spinner in the background, almost 3 wide in the middle of this start there, but everybody gets on by. That spinner car managed to get on by GTOs. That looks very interesting.
It certainly does, and well, it's looking like the top 2 or the top 3 have been able to break away from the rest of the field. The rest of the field, though, absolute carnage as everybody just tries to filter their way through, and well, there's still a bit of side-by-side action. That was wide there, and just managing to stay on the circuit. I believe that was Brain who dropped down. There's contact in the lower part of the field. That was Turban Palik who has managed to recover the car. Nobody's gone into him, but he has dropped to the back of the GTO field. It's very disappointing. Back up the top at the GTPs, and Gabriel Martinez sending it to the inside line, sending it too far. He's gone off the circuit, but he has taken the position.
He's taken the position, but the key thing is he's got to serve a slowdown, a little bit of contact. He saw the line to the inside of 11 and tried to make it, and almost 3 wide they go. Jacob Reed, now they go 3 wide. Extra pass from Valenteas on the grass. He needed to make that pass, and Gabriel Martinez is falling like bricks into that first lap slowdown. Not what he wants to see out there today. That's going to put him all the way down. In fact, he's battling Lance Olsen at the back of the field, well, the back of this group here. That's going to hold everybody up. He'll go side by side with Olsen. Meanwhile, in the GTOs, Andreas Schuster is having a little battle with Mickey Friesen. Mickey's smart about this. Everyone's just going to keep it calm in the GTOs.
Yeah, they are, and Mickey Friesen playing it smart because he is in the lead of it, so he's got much more control than Andreas Schuster. Schuster has to fight him if he wants to make his way through. Friesen is going to pick up a bit of slipstream from Lundberg, but not enough and Schuster is just going to remain in that fight, as that is going to be, I believe, Henning Schwabig just trying to fight his way through the field at the moment, and of course he's got those GTOs in the way. He is not lapping them, he is overtaking them legitimately on track, so I mean, they have no reason to let him go other than not losing their own time. That was a driver a little bit wide further down the field. I think Joni Hagner and Craig Young are having a fight. But yeah, I mean, Mickey Friesen is going to allow Schwabig through. It's not going to be too much of a fight. Of course, he doesn't need to put up too much of a fight at this early stage, and that will actually lose him time to Lundberg if he does decide to fight it. Van Hicks on the back of Schuster and looking to make that fight. But Jacob Reed looking to make the move on Grau as he heads around the outside line, trying to keep one tyre on the track. It's going to be very difficult because he's going to get squeezed right to the outside line. Grau holds that inside. Reed tries to continue around the long way around, and he just about squeezes into the lead of the race. Grau trying to fight back towards the first corner. Can he do so? Reed with the fastest lap, Grau with the inside line. And at the moment, they are still locked in battle. Jacob Reed tries to squeeze Grau, and he's done so. And that might open the door to Valenteus. Not quite yet. Grau tries to remain in the fight, but Valenteus with a supreme exit, trying to remain alongside, trying to remain in the fight, but it looks as though he's going to have to give it up for now, but maybe not. Grau, poor exit. Valenteus again opens the door, but it's not a door that's open fully. It's just slightly ajar, and at the moment, Valenteus slightly too wide to fit through, but Grau, another small mistake, and Valenteus has allowed himself the opportunity to make that move. He's in second place, and Grau was only holding them up there, as there's now a 1.1 gap between the top two.
And that's actually interesting. It's a 1.2 second gap. Just got a little bit of slipstream, has Valenteus, but he needed to make that move as fast as he could because it's a game of inches. And Varun Grau made that one mistake, and that cost him. And now he's going to take the overspeed. But the moment you pull out in these GTPs, that speed disappeared. So Valenteus going to use a very, very quick little burst there of the slipstream. Just got his nose in there, and around the outside, Grau will go. He just saw Jacob Reed try this. This is not something we saw last time we came around here. Valenteus still holds it on the inside. Varun Grau real good around the outside, but this could be a repeat of what we saw earlier. In fact, early braking from Valenteus. He knows he made Grau make the mistake. Brilliant heads-up display there. It's just gone out of the frying pan into the fire for Varun Grau. He's down into 6th position now. Gabriel Martinez and Varun Grau started this race at the top of the field. They're going to have to work their way through the best to try and get to the top again.
Yeah, I think Varun Grau a bit rusty with his fights at the top. He wasn't quite prepared for how aggressively Reed and Valenteus would attack him and how easily they would pounce on every opportunity. And they pounced on the opportunity so far as we continue through. The GTPs has lit up around this circuit so far, and we're only 5 minutes into this 40-minute dash around Aragon. Mickey Friesen, in the meantime, on the back of Lundberg. This is for the lead in the GTOs. Can he pull alongside in not quite yet the slipstream, not quite as strong as they are in the GTPs, simply because the cars are not quite that big. The hole that is punched in the air is not quite that big, and so Mickey Friesen remains in behind Lundberg for the time being, and he's just going to sense an opportunity. Hope that there is a mistake drawn out from the number 6 in the lead of the race, and hope in the meantime that Joran Van Hicks is not going to be fighting with him too hard at this point in time. That is for that second place in the GTOs, and Friesen now drops to about 6 tenths behind, so I think Lundberg is much quicker in the corners. I think Mickey Friesen is very, very quick down the straights, and he's just going to hope for a mistake. Gabriel Martinez here fighting with Grau. He tries to go for the outside, but Grau just moves across, covers him off, and Martinez now moves to the outside line. He's going to be able to hold a wheel in, not quite. This racing is very, very tight. It's very, very aggressive, and it's very good to watch.
Oh, Gabriel, that was not the move, and he thought he saw an opportunity there, and it just wasn't there. He tried to go for a little bit of a late move there, and that's an inexperience, and almost both of them coming together with Javier Mosquera for a moment there. Just probably a little bit ambitious there, and hello, Varun Grau. Also, maybe I think he just missed some braking points there. Also just making a small mistake there. I hope that's not what we thought it was, but that's unfortunate. Let's get back with these GTOs, though, as everything calms down a little bit for the GTPs as they hit the back markers. These guys are basically bump drafting down this long straight at the moment. They're happy enough to be where they are, and if you know IMSA Vintage, you know this is the GTO train. Iker Costasalo's trying to catch up to that train at the moment. He's trying to hold off Remco Snell, and he's going to have to just accept it because This is not where you want to be at the moment. You don't want to be fighting too much. You're already 3.5 seconds away from Doug Cloud. Doug Cloud's not with the main pack here. So the more you can work together to keep up with that main pack, the better. Otherwise, you are in a little bit of a problem, as you see Costosalo with the alternate Audi livery out there. It's tough out there. He started 10th. He's still 10th. One of the only drivers, really, to keep a net zero on the day.
Yes, just doing well so far to hold position at this moment in time. And, well, the fighting will continue on up and down the field as he will just remain unbothered in the position that he remains in. As, well, at the moment, I think, in fairness, those drivers who've gained one position in the GTP field are, or those at the top at least, are just going to be knowing that they gained that position because of the mistakes of ground. So they pretty much feel like it's a net neutral. The GTPs have caught the GTOs for the first time, and they are sensing an opportunity to fight their way through, and sensing an opportunity to maybe gain on their rivals. As well, there's going to be a fight for the lead of that GTO class. There's 2/10 now between Lundberg as he backed out of that move, and Reed 1.5 at the moment ahead of Aldrius Valenteas. And it's fair to say he's got a very, very good opportunity, as we're going to get 3 abreast, I think, further down the field when Jacob Reed makes his way through on the drivers. And they all come through pretty cleanly. Valenteas gets through pretty cleanly on some of the GTOs. And we're going to come to the end of this next lap. And we are going to be getting potentially side-by-side action. Olejniczak and Wells into the first corner. There's going to be a little bit of a hit, as that's a huge misbraking zone from Henry Verimaki. And he's going to go into the back of one of the other drivers. Didn't quite see who that was, but the number 33 will be regretting that decision. I think it may well have been some sort of tech issue, because he very much just didn't brake.
Yeah, it didn't break. And also, I think the drivers were keeping an eye because they were side by side. They went into turn 13 at the end of the lap, free wide. And Verimaki tried to go through in the middle and could not hold it. And then they had the free wide with Wells and Olejniczak going in for P3. Big time battle for those guys. They're already 2 seconds away from Valenteas. And Valenteas is already 2 seconds behind Jacob Reed. That just goes to show you the issues out there for the first round of traffic. You can see on board with Mickey Friesen what he has to look at right now, and he's just waiting at the front. He is waiting to see what happens. Side by side, he'll go with Noel Lundberg. Johan Van Hicks is there. Is Johan going to try and go for this? Hello, Van Hicks is going to go 3 wide. Let's take it 3 wide very early, and let's make it 4 wide. Jacob Reed finds a hole and goes for it. Who gets the better line? It's the number 6 of Noel Lundberg. Mickey Friesen at the inside. He may get some run here, but he didn't want to open up the throttle and hit to the number 4. Valenteas goes around the outside. Keep an eye if that's a slow down. It is. It is. He just crossed over the green markers. We talked about it, and more bumping from Van Hicks and Friesen. Schuster's got the goal here. He does not want to see any of that in his front mirror because he has no time to react. Big thing here. Valenteas tried to go around the outside of 14. That cost him. That's a slowdown. He's going to be losing a lot of time to Jacob Reed.
He is 2.9 up to 3 seconds now. I think the difference is between himself and Jacob Reed. And Olejniczak is going to be looking at that gap coming down and wondering exactly what's happened. But he is 5 seconds behind. So he's not going to be looking in the mirrors, not going to be pressuring just yet. Andreas Schuster is in the very thick of things, as is Mickey Friesen. And both of them will be hoping for an opportunity to overtake one another. This is Gabri Martinez and this is Emilio Tachari. He's going to be maybe looking for a move on the back of the number of the driver in 10th place at the moment, but at the moment just a couple of the GTOs in the way of the number 30's progress. It's a difficult one to weigh up, really, because do you want to be moving off of line, getting out of the way of the GTPs, or do you want to be standing on line, waiting for the GTPs to go around? That will be the debate that both the GTOs and the GTPs will be having, and I think the GTPs would actually prefer that the GTOs get out of the way, as Olejniczak is going to be overtaken by Wells. He's not going to want that driver ahead of him at the moment, but he's going to pick up a lovely, sumptuous bit of slipstream down to the next straight. Johan Van Hicks is going to be on the back of Lundberg. Friesen's going to be on the back of him, and we're going to be getting at least a little bit of side-by-side action. Don't know who it's going to be between just yet, but down this straight. At the moment, it looks like Gabri Martinez is going to be that person down the inside, and he is going to make his way through Seamus Power, trying to overtake into 9th place. There is so many opportunities for these GTPs when they head through the GTO field. but at the moment they're not taking them, and well, that's fair enough. They're settling into the race just over 10 minutes gone, and well, it feels as though when they head around to the next few attempts around, they're going to get more aggressive with their lapping opportunities.
Yeah, chalk up another driver getting a slowdown, trying to make a move around the outside of the GTOs at the final corner. It's Brendan Lim having a little bit of a moment, and you see behind Andreas Schuster, a little bit of bumping from Doug Cloud and Javier Mascara. Mascara still battling with Ferran Grau there at 12th position, so they're having a little scrap into this tight corner here. Zacharocas, my Spanish is very bad. Lo siento. Again, I was going to Marquez, and again, more drivers trying to go around the outside. Ferran Grau was trying to do it. Andreas Schuster is trying to catch up to the rest of this GTO field. Top three are a little bit far ahead now, but it just goes to show Joni Hagner just saw an opportunity with Eki Anderson. That's the car that's just pulled out into the middle, and there beside him goes Jason Creddy, and here goes Yvon Ricoguez. And now he's just going to be able to get that advantage. Almost goes into the back of the pushrod racing car. And that opened the door up for Andreas Schuster, but no avail for him. Meanwhile, in front of them as well, more drivers taking a little bit of a movement. As you see, GTP trying to get past, they do. And this is going to be interesting because you don't want to do Eki Anderson almost outbreaking, going into the leader of Noah Lundberg there. First round of the traffic is almost over. That's going to be a sigh of relief for the GTOs because they shook up things massively on that first run.
They certainly did. It was very, very, very much shook up as at the moment the GTOs that are side by side are Schuster and Cloud. Schuster, who's dropped down the field and may well drop down another position. He's got Brain in behind him ready to take the opportunity as well. So those two are ready to overtake if Schuster does make any mistakes. And that's going to be a GTP in the field in the foreground. Didn't quite see who that was, but that is one of the GTPs that is going to be round and potentially out of this race as a result. But we continue on watching this fight, and it's going to be Schuster and Cloud, as it was Anderson out of the corner who span around and did not have a very good moment there, and that was a one moment that could completely derail his race, and most likely has completely derailed his race. Doug Cloud chasing Schuster at the moment, not quite getting close enough, and he's just trying to sense an opportunity as we've still got side by side for this final podium position. Aleix Nissak and Wells are remaining locked in battle, and who is going to be coming out on top of it, still not sure, as Aleix Nissak sweeps around the outside, makes the move, and he has moved up. Wells, and not very happy, I don't think, with that move, and he's going to be trying to make his way back through. Reed as well in the battle, not Jacob, but the one with 2 E's.
Yeah, the one with 2 E's, Jacob, is Timothy Reed there doing well. Alleged Jack round the outside of 3, very brave maneuver there, gets it done, and Jack thinking probably a bit too much about what happened. Got Timothy right behind him and a little bit worried. Emilio Dicciari was doing so well there, and well, you can see him getting into reverse, and he is now pulling in a full lock-in. He doesn't need to do an Austin Powers maneuver here. He's got a lot of room, but that's going to cost him a lot of time. Going to put him down into 17th. And let's have a quick look at a replay of what happened here. Coming to the start, did he take a bit too much? The rear went. Now that's interesting, and almost got grip roll. And, well, a very light kiss of the barrier there. Interestingly, some of the drivers that you do want to try and trim out a little bit here of downforce, not able to, because if you trim out too much downforce, you can't do what Alessio Jack just did and defend around the outside of 13 and 14. Real good defending there for the driver. Meanwhile, Mickey Friesen under a little bit of pressure as well, with Joni Hagner right behind him. He's not had the best run here. Remember, about 5 laps ago, he was leading. He's now 2 seconds behind the leaders of the GTOs.
Yes, not doing very well and just trying to sort himself out, trying to unscramble his brain, as it were, as he continues on through and is now alongside Joni Hagner, who got a better exit out of the corner, but it's down to who has the better downforce, and it looks like Friesen is going to tuck back into the slipstream and try to make his way through, but the slipstream not quite as strong as he would have been hoping it was, and Joni Hagner remains ahead as Friesen gets very close to the back of Joni. And is he going to be able to make his way through as Cloud and Schuster are fighting right in behind them? And Mickey Friesen is going to bump draft him down the straight, maybe a little bit of a lift off. Didn't quite know where Joni Hagner's braking zone was going to be, but Friesen braking a little bit later, so he remains behind Schuster and Cloud locked in battle. Schuster is going to be the car on the outside line. It switches to the inside for the next corner, and he is looking like he's going to hold on to this position, but wait, here comes Cloud on the outside line. It is generally the quicker line when you're going for an overtake, but on this occasion, it hasn't been, and he's under pressure from Brain, who goes around the outside but cannot hold on. He doesn't quite have the traction. He doesn't want the slowdown, and so Cloud remains ahead of Brain, but he's going to have to go again on Schuster. As in the meantime, we did have one of the drivers who was in very, very strong contention in that GTO field. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing any more of Teo Schleray, who, in his own words, he has crashed, his game has crashed, and he cannot join back, which is unfortunate for Teo after a very, very good qualifying. But it does allow the opportunity for all the other drivers to be promoted up one position. At the moment, it's Lundberg versus Van Hicht.
Yeah, he did come back into the sim. He's currently running an 11th. Interesting move from Schuster around the outside of turn 1 and managed to get that stuck, and they're going to be going side by side. And lovely camera shot here. You have set 3rd and 4th in a battle. You got 1st and 2nd. We just missed out in a battle, and this is 5th and 6th in with a little battle. And I tell you what, Josh Brain, he's probably just going to pick a horse and ride it now, almost Daytona style. And he was almost just going to give a push there to Doug, but right before the braking, not going to work. And Doug trying to go around the outside, does not work. And keep your eyes on that timing tower, by the way, because yes, it is true, the GTPs are through traffic again, and that is a 2nd loss for Reed, now a 2nd gain for Reed. Doug tries to get that move done on Schuster, gets it done. I'm also keeping my eyes on what happened with Jack Wells and Alleged Jack. That's Wells making the move, almost having to lift off, and that's very close to going to the back of Jonny Berg. Gets it stuck. Is Alleged Jack going to try and make a move into turn 1? He will. Has he overdone it? No, and he actually also just blocks off the apex there for Jack. So real good battling by these two. The timing tower is correct. They are now 12 seconds. We're at the halfway point. 12 seconds behind Jacob Reed. Real good driving by Jacob Reed once again. And you're going to ask yourself, well, these guys, as we see Jack Wells again, Reed and Valentez, well, they've been battling 3 series now as we look involved with the Irishman Seamus Power. 3 series in a weekend for those two. Very interesting to see what they can do.
Yeah, very, very interested to see what these drivers are going to be able to do, as of course pretty much every race is a stage, and they are trying to play the best that they can on it. Mickey Friesen, by the way, is alongside Jonny Hagner once again. He's trying to make his way back through, and Friesen is on the inside line and will take the position. He just had that overspeed into the first corner, and he has been able to make that move stick. As Doug Cloud and Andreas Schuster were side by side. It looks as though Andreas Schuster has gone very wide, so wide in fact that Brain is going to pull alongside and surely head out of the corner, as he has so much better momentum. In behind them there is a car very, very close, and in fact that looks like it may well be a car that is not in this fight. Doug Cloud leading Schuster, leading Brain, and Sintes Galindo is not going to be fighting with them. He's in 14th. It's the car in 8th that is currently trying to fight them. Is not on the timing board at the moment. But yeah, these drivers still scrapping it out on this circuit, and they've been locked in battle for a very long time. Cloud and Schuster, Brain and Young, they will continue to fight, I think, for, well, just for the time being, as we will tick over the halfway points in this race.
Yeah, this is big time, because the leaders of the GTPs just got past the leaders of the GTOs. And look at the gap. It's gone down to a 2nd, and Valenteus has had a real good time through the traffic. But Jacob, it hasn't. And the old saying, traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. I just said that about twisting my words for a change. That has worked. But you can see now Valenteus is having to play catch-up through the traffic for the 2nd time. It worked better for the number 1 car, and now he's gonna have to start driving hard. And I wonder where he's gonna pick up some time here, because it's oh so tough. Meanwhile, I can report Henning Swebeck had a moment out there, and he has gone around. I think he's even struggling to get that car recovered as well. We go to a replay. This is what happened to Henning Swebeck here. Real quick there from Christian on the thing. Did he just go a bit too, yeah, it took a bit too much speed there for the 36. It's having a little bit too hot there on the throttle, and that's unfortunate. But this battle, it is closing, and now you look at it. The top 2 in both classes are separated by less than a 2nd. We're at the halfway stage, folks. Still got another 18 minutes to go.
There is so much fighting still to be had. There is so much action still to be had out on that circuit, as Andreas Schuster is in the thick of it. Doug Cloud, Cal Young and Brain as well, all within this little 4-car battle for P4. Don't forget, they weren't even, or P5 even, they're not even fighting for a podium. They're not even fighting nearly for a podium, as the top 4 in that class are split by less than a second per driver. So Van Hicks is less than a second behind Lundberg, Friesen half a second behind Van Hicks, and then Hagner another less than a second behind Friesen, although that looks like it may well be changing soon. This class has provided some very, very good racing, and the GTPs have caught up once again. They're trying to scythe their way through the field without much trouble. I believe that's Tim Reed trying to scythe his way through. No, indeed it's not. It's the number 13 Lim who is trying to scythe his way through, and he's managed to make it through. Reed made his way through on the previous lap time, and well, at the moment the GTPs are coming through to lap again. It hasn't had too much of an effect on the battle that's going on currently, but that's not to say that it hasn't had an effect on the battles before and won't after. The side-by-side between Schuster and Cloud as the GTP goes through and out of the way, as Schuster tries to pick up a little bit of the slipstream and will be on the outside line into the next braking zone. Both braking, both turning. Schuster tries to get the turning circle sorted, and he does so. Doug Cloud still manages to keep a tyre in, and as he goes to the inside line of the next corner, that allows him to stay fully alongside. The GTPs are going to be on the inside line, so Doug Cloud is going to have to be very, very aware of that. The GTP wisely backs out of it, and Andreas Schuster is going to drop down a position. Doug Cloud later on the brakes, earlier on the throttle, and making his way through.
Well, it just doesn't look like Alcon is in the middle of rush hour, as we see. We're having to have your Mascara just gone a bit too wide, just as the Audi of Aitor Sintet Galindo was opening up the corner. But this is Brendan Lim now, who was also still in battles, and a really good drive for him. But a shout out to Seamus Power. Didn't set a qualifying lap, and he's up 13 positions today, and almost just scrapping with Mickey Friesen. And hats off to Mickey, because he's got back up to this lead GTO battle. That's some impressive driving. Meanwhile, you look at the GTP leader. We don't need to go to them at the moment, but Jacob Reed put a fast lap after a fast lap, and Valenteus is struggling out there, and it's very interesting to see what is going to happen right now with Fabian Jungbluf. He's defending against Baron Grau. Baron Grau, remember, started pole position. This is the P10 for him. In front as well, there's some side-by-side with Brendan Lim and Seamus Power. Seamus is going to go down a position to plus 12. Laust Olsen, a name we've not mentioned for a while. He's just going to wait for an opportunity, and this is good battling. And the switch back almost, as you could say, from Seamus, getting a better run out of 14 to try and make the stick, but he'll have to go around the outside with Brendan Lim in the silk-cut Jaguar livery-inspired livery, and they're still going side by side. And finally, that outside of turn 2 does not work very well, like the outside of 13 and 14 onto the 007 camera for the first time today. Brendan Lim, you got a license to drive, my guy.
He certainly does. Very, very good racing here today so far from Brendan Lim, and he's trying to hold on to that 7th spot, which he does hold at the moment. There's no pressure for him to make an overtake ahead, so it's all just about holding that position in behind, as we watch in the top right corner of your screen. Schuster and Young now having a fight. They have managed to, there has been a gap, a small gap, but a sizable gap in terms of the difference relative to what it has been so far this race between them and Doug Cloud, who looks like he's going to be able to break away from that one now. 15 minutes left, and there is very much still action on the circuit. It speaks volumes as to why Jacob Reed and Aldrius Valenteus are the championship fighters, that they have managed to build up a gap of 12.3 seconds back to Wells and Aleshnisak. So those two, very much the quickest cars out on the circuit. Power is going to get through, and he's going to be on the outside line of Lim, who's going to be on the inside. They're 2 by 2. It's Noah's Ark into the next braking zone, and Lim does come out on top. The 2 behind still not decided, and well, it's still not decided. Seamus Power up here. Olsen and Grau are the 2 side by side, and they are split by less than a 10th, as are these 2 into the first corner. Power gets through, and Grau gets through on Olsen, and he manages to take P9. Olsen drops to 10th place, and Power climbs up ahead of Lim.
It's almost like the one tells the truth, the other tells the lie. One group went round the outside for an overtake, the other one went for the inside round the overtake, and that was very interesting to see from these drivers. And I tell you what, Fabian Jungbluf's decided, I kind of want to make this a 5-car battle, so let's throw a blanket, a nice Spanish blanket over the drivers as they keep on going. I'm keeping my eyes on that GTP, because the GTP leaders are hitting traffic for the 3rd time. So keep an eye on that in the next lap or so as these drivers continue on. They've got a few more laps before they hit that traffic. But now you've got 5 cars. And It was interesting last time out. I saw some serpentine before they even came around turn 12. And here they go again, just trying to sort out their issues. And this is what they love to see. And with the way the track is today, with the way the aero is, this allows Ferrin to get past Brendan Lim. And Brendan Lim had a toe from Seamus Power. Now Seamus giving a toe to Brendan Lim, but it's too late. Ferrin will get that position, and behind them as well, Fabian Jungluff get past Laus Olsen. And this is the smart thing from Laus. He knows that if he works with Fabian right now, they can catch up together. Real smart there from the veteran of Laus Olsen. Last time I checked, third in races attended on broadcast, and a slide out there from Ferrin, and a slide from Laus Olsen. They really have trimmed the aero out today, because that's not one you usually see the car do, because they've got the downforce. That was pure loss of downforce.
Certainly was. They've very much had aggressive fights, Ferrin Grau especially, and he may well have sustained damage from, if not one, then two of those fights, as this fight has literally been going on for at least 25 of the 30 minutes, or the 25 of the 28 minutes that we've had at the moment, and it looks set to continue for a very long time. Doug Cloud has been caught back up, and Cal Young is on the outside line, but he's not going to be able to make his way through. There's a GTP in the mix, and that's going to slow down Schuster, and slowing significantly down is going to be Doug Cloud, who has a poor first corner, and he drops to the back of this fight, might even drop in behind the next driver as well, and might drop down to 9th place. So that's a big mistake from Doug Cloud. Misshift potentially?
Yeah, it definitely was a misshift. I had to just go back on to check in the cockpit. Definitely was a misshift. It was, if anything, it was a move on for Cal. Even if he didn't misshift, I think Doug was going to lose that position. A real good switch back there from Cal Young, but yeah, it does look to me, just from looking back, that it was a misshift there, because the res were going up and Doug could not find the gear. And you get that in the heat of the moment in these Audi GTOs. That's why they're one of the toughest cars to drive on the sim. But the drivers tell me, I've never driven this car. I do apologize, guys. I have a Nissan. They tell me it's a really fun blast out there. And I'll tell you what's a fun blast if we watch the leaders. Now know with 11 minutes to go that it's time to really tighten the screw a little bit. Noah Lundberg loves draft tracks, and he loves to lead them because he also knows how to break the toe. But now he's got two wily veterans, and actually Lundberg's been driving now for a few years. You can put the V word next to him. He's a veteran as well. And you see a couple GTPs, just slow ones with damage, trying to get by. Nothing happening yet. But you start to see Friesen, and he doesn't sweat, he doesn't show a lot of emotion, and you can't really see because, you know, he's Bane at the moment with that microphone. But you'll start to see just how it goes. And Nico Costa-Salo, well, makes that same move that Cal Young did earlier. It just goes to show that turn one's been a real good overtaking point. Wasn't expecting that today.
Yeah, turn one, the biggest overtaking opportunity so far, I think, is, well, it does look as though it makes sense for it to be the best overtaking opportunity, because they are going to be side by side after exiting the final corner, after exiting the final braking zone of Marquez. So they're going to go through all of the flat out corners. They're going to go through the side by side, the straight side by side, and well, because of the fact that slipstream is very effectual, because of the fact that as soon as you step out of it, it's very ineffectual, that will see drivers locked in battle, and that is why we're seeing so many moves into the first corner. We may well get another one here. Mickey Friesen chasing in behind Van Hicks even, who's chasing in behind Lundberg, and they are still trying to fight as well, they head down the straight and allow the leaders through. Jacob Reed, of course, one of those, and he looks like he's going to be lapping somebody in his own class. That is the class that Jacob Reed is. It's a class above the rest.
Yeah, we started with 20 GTPs. It was technically 21, but one didn't make the start. 20 GTPs, and 14 of them were on the lead lap, so really good. But at the same time, Jacob Reed, he puts in another fastest lap of 21.914, and I do like to look at the race laps during the week, and it's not even close to how fast Jacob could go. The fastest lap this week for him of a 21.603 in other races, so he has pace still on the table. And I wonder if that's him just saying, hang on 1 second, Valenteas, you may be able to catch up to me. And I'll tell you what, Valenteas can't catch up to him. It's going to be interesting as we watch Cal Young. He's still in this little battle at the moment with Andreas Schuster, Josh Brain right behind. And again, they've been battling hard, and more lockups there for Schuster. It's the rear that locks up there on this four-wheel drive. Not all-wheel drive. It is all-wheel drive, I apologize. as we did. Me and Adam did have that confusion a couple seasons ago. It is an all-wheel drive setup for these Audi GTOs. As Schuster, not where he wants to be. He started 4th, he's down into 5th, but you can't complain at a top 5 on a track like this. It's just a draft track. Usually you expect to have a little bit more pace out there, and for Schuster today, just unable to catch up with the leaders.
Yeah, not quite had the pace here today to keep up with where he feels as though he may well, or he may well should be, in fact, as Andreas Schuster at the moment, 5th place, Cal Young, Brain in behind, still ready to attack, as the top 3 will continue to fight as well, while the top 2 in the GTPs have managed to break away. Reed and Valenteus are going to be 15 and 19 seconds ahead of Wells. It is very, very tight at the top of the GTOs. Lundberg, Van Hicks and Friesen all waiting for an opportunity for someone to go through, and they are pushing each other to a limit so high that the GTPs aren't even daring to go through on the inside. They're just watching this battle. They are just in awe, maybe even, of the fights that are going on and how aggressive it is and how tense it is. And they don't really want to get themselves involved, but that is a mistake from the GTP watching in behind that has allowed the other one through.
Yeah, David Ricciardi, he has so much damage on the car. Not a lot he can do. A spinning GTO as well. Just freaked some of the drivers, and this is the crucial moment. Friesen may lose a little bit of time here with Jack Wells going on by. And behind Jack Wells will be Elijah Jack, who's lost a lot of time out there as well in the GTP field. I'll tell you what, Valente's has lost a lot of time. But this is just the nature of the drivers. The GTO field, the top 3 have been working together. They've not been aggressive. They've not been battling. 7 minutes to go. They'll be starting to battle shortly. But these 3 are 11.5 seconds ahead of everybody else. And then you see Jacob Reed, as Brendan Lim's had a bit of a moment out there, but Jacob Reed is 22 seconds ahead of P3. And unfortunately for Brendan, just not what he wanted to see. A small moment out there. It looks like he just came in contact with Doug Cloud. Yeah, it's actually Doug Cloud just missing his braking point. Let's just get on with Emilio Dicciari, as he's had some more moments out there. It's tough to transmit over, and that's not, I'm not entirely sure what has happened there. Coming of the mines there, I think the meeting of 2 mines, and I think one driver was trying to keep it wide or just washing out. The other one was just trying to stick it wide, but it's so tough. As again, Friesen and Van Hicks and Lundberg, say it again, they're still together.
They certainly are. They'll keep fighting together, I think, for the remainder of the 6 minutes of this race, and we will get a winner on the final lap of these GTOs, as this has been a very, very good, intense battle. They've all been pushing each other to the very limit. They've all been trying to avoid mistakes, and they've all been trying to force mistakes out of one another. At the moment, hasn't worked for any single one of them to force a mistake out of the other. But of course, 6 minutes left in the session. This is where the drivers will be the most tired, the most fatigued, but also the most switched on, the most adrenaline pumping through their veins, as they know they can get a podium. They know that they can also get something just a little more. They've got no pressure in behind, so if they do make a mistake, they will still sit on that podium, with Joni Hagner 11.2 seconds behind and increasing. The GTP is trying to go through on the outside line, as this is going to be very tight between Timothy Reed and Gabriel Martinez. Martinez sweeps across, takes 5th place, and wow, that's another battle that will continue on. Elijah Nisak in the lead of it as well, and they will continue fighting as these 3 still locked in battle, and I don't think they'll stop anytime soon. The slipstream is going to benefit them all, and it may well be 3 wide, not quite, as Van Hicks backs out first, Mickey Friesen backs out second, and they know they've only got a couple of laps to make an impression.
Yeah, they want to make an impression. It'll be interesting to see. Have another look of a replay. This was Brendan Lim. He goes to make the overtake shortly on Doug. There he goes onto Doug. And I think Doug, yeah, almost looks like... Now, I can't tell who's at fault there. It looks like either Brendan's gone too slow or Doug's gone and missed his braking point. I saw some smoke. I'm not entirely sure, but it's just one of those things in multi-class racing. And this is another thing you don't see in multi-class racing, is with 4 minutes to go, boys, you got 2 laps to go, roughly. I think who's going to make the call to go right now? And I've got to give a respect to the GTPs behind, because they're not getting involved in this. Farron Grau realizes the situation. In fact, he's going to try and get past all of them. He can only get past one of them. Who does that hinder? Well, that hinders Van Hicks, and they're going to be losing a little bit of time. But this might also help for Friesen. It won't help for Van Hicks, because Lundberg's going to get a bit of tow. And now comes Ricciardi around the outside. He can cost a Salo still in his battle with Doug Cloud. I wonder if Doug's picked up a little bit, got a bit of damage there as we go to a quick replay of what happened for Cal Young. Remember, he was doing so well earlier, and he's 17th now. What has happened to him? Gone a bit too wide, and don't tell me he collided with everybody. That's a close one. Last thing you want is to get hit after spinning, and that's not what you want to see.
Certainly isn't. Cal Young will be out of the fight that he's been in for so long, and that's going to be an unfortunate incident for him, especially at this point in the race, as well, we're going to head on 3 minutes left in this session. Top 3 still locked in a fight, and Cotisalo has just made the move for 7th place on Doug Cloud, as we can watch that in our little picture-in-picture, that fight that continues on. The GTOs have provided the majority of the action here, but the GTPs have provided the majority of the class, as that's going to be Doug Cloud gliding into the pit lane. And, well, I don't really know what to say about that. Doug Cloud decided to pit. He decided to use one of the GTPs to throw him in there last minute.
No, I can see what happened. I saw what happened there. Felipe Diaz tried to go around the outside of the final corner, and he did, unfortunately, not leave the line, and he did hit the side of Doug Cloud, and it was Doug. I would like to have said that was Doug having a mistake, not because I want him to have a mistake. It would be more beneficial if Doug lost it himself and got into the pits than if he was hit into the pits, and fortunately it's the latter, not the former. Here's that replay. You can see just coming around the final corner, here comes Felipe Diaz, and remember, the Audis take a line and they've got to stick to a line, and that door was always closing for the drivers. But one thing that has to not close, this has to open, surely, with 1 lap to go maybe, you've got to feel, maybe 2, you've got to feel that someone's going to make a move, and Mickey Friesen almost decided he was going to just be the last of the late breakers, but nothing, and he's tapping the back of Van Hicks, and Van Hicks with the drift to hold on to it, but they've lost a lot of time to Lundberg. I think Mickey wants to get going.
How on earth has Van Hicks managed to hold on to that one, especially at this point in the race where the car will spin around so very easily? Mickey Friesen doing well to remain in it. Van Hicks, though, has dropped to over a second in behind Lundberg, so I think that may well have sealed the victory for Lundberg, and this is the fight on for that 2nd place, as you say, it's likely the last lap of this race. As they head through the first sector, we will see who is going to come out on top in this one, as the gap increases between themselves and Lundberg. Maybe Van Hicks has damage. I'm not sure whether he does, but it was certainly a very, very good save for him. If he does have damage, it'll be very, very minor, and it doesn't appear to be affecting him too much, as now it will be a drag race. It will be to the line, and I'm not sure who's going to be coming out on top.
It'll be interesting because the GTPs, I believe Jacob might be on his last lap. Average lap of 28.96 at the pace. He's just started lap 29. These lead GTOs, they are on an average of 25.00. This is going to come down to where does Jacob Reed hit them. And if Jacob Reed hits Friesen and Van Hicks before he hits Lundberg takes the championship. This is not good. This is not good. That's a slow GTP that has no speed, and that's his affected thing. Friesen's going to go to the inside. He's going to take this. Jacob Reed got 1 second, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I'll tell you what he is. Jacob Reed is going to come home. Is he going to overtake these two and end their race? This could be a finish to the line, because around the outside will be Friesen to hold on to P2. And Jacob Reed's going to hold it. He's going to say, go around again, boy, because Jacob Reed takes the GTP victory.
Yes, Jacob Reed takes that GTP victory. Very, very good win, but it's still on for 2nd place in the GTOs. Van Hicks has held on. And yeah, Jacob Reed, Valenteas, very, very, very good drivers here today. And they will take those 2 spots. And now the eyes turn to the GTO battle as everybody below the podium has finished. Jenny Hagner, Andreas Schuster in the 4th and 5th. But it's now down to those top 3 to come across the line. Jack Wells will finish 3rd in the GTPs. Gabriel Martinez 4th, Alej Nasak 5th, and Reed will finish in 6th spot. We are going to come to the end of this race, and well, it looks like the GTPs are going to be, well, they are going to be those top 6 confirmed. The top 7 now as Shaman's Power crosses the line, but in the GTOs, it's still yet to be decided. Mickey Friesen getting very close to the back of Van Hicks. Can he pull alongside? Can he make this move very late on in the day? He tucks into the slipstream. He will try and search for every opportunity to make his way through.
It's the number 10 racing the number 4, and he tries to look to the inside. Van Hicks leaves the door open. It is going to be the chance, but the slipstream not so strong around here. It's still, though, strong enough to slingshot Friesen momentarily ahead on the circuit. Now they continue on, split by virtually nothing into the next braking zone, and this could be the braking zone that decides this entire race. Mickey Friesen on the inside, Van Hicks still holding the long way around, and it's down to the final stretch, the final straight, and Mickey Friesen succumbs the position, and Van Hicks takes second. Lundberg wins. Noel Lundberg in the GTOs is victorious. Van Hicks and Friesen kept it very, very close to the line.
In a classic IMSA Vintage quotation, Johan Van Hicks around the outside for the third time on broadcast to get that position, and that's an all-timer. Fantastic driving by both of them, and that was with Van Hicks having a misshift coming out of Marc Marquez. What a battle those two had. Friesen will feel a little bit deflated, but a podium is fantastic, and while that was happening, well, the GTPs did finish on, and we'll go through those results because Jacob Reed beat Valenteus by 4 seconds. That's impressive. This is why these are two of the best right now in GTPs. Jack Wells with a fantastic podium after last week. Gabriel Martinez did get past Alessia Jack on the final lap. I think something may have happened between the two of them, but 4th and 5th for both of them, and Timothy Reed will be in 6th. Seamus Power made up 13 positions into 7th. Fabian Jungblöf goes up to 8th, and Farron Grau, and good little recovery, but started on pole, finished unfortunately in 9th. Lars Olsen started 10th, and he finished 10th. And then that will bring us to Brendan Lim, who finished in 11th position, and Jason Creddy will be the last man on the lead lap in 12th. Eki Anderson will be a lap down with Andre Felipe Diaz, who had to take a pit stop for incident points, will be in 14th. Ivan Rico Giz will be in 15th, and 4 places down from Milu Dachari. He had to take a pit stop as well in 16th. David Ricciardi was a few laps down, kept running in 17th, and then the retirees, Javier Mosquera in 18th. Henning Swebek will be 19th. Diego Mastretta will be 20th, and of course, as I was saying, one driver that did not take the start, Joseph Rice, will be in the officially confirmed in 21st. But that GTO battle, Joseph, that was one for the ages.
Certainly was very, very good fight, and Noel Lundberg, of course, on top in the GTOs, but it was all about Johan Van Hicks and Mickey Friesen. In the end, Van Hicks beat Friesen, and they were the only drivers on the lead lap of the GTOs. Joni Hagner came in 4th place, Andreas Schuster in 5th. Josh Brain makes it 6th place, and that was a very, very good scrap between themselves and a car that will come up in a minute as well. Ilka Kutasalo in 7th place, Remco Snell in 8th, Theo Schleret, who did a very good job to come back after disconnecting from the session at the start in 9th, and Ian Haycox will round out the top 10 in the Audi 90 GTO field, and that takes us to 11th place, and Aitor Sintes Galindo, who did fight initially for that 4th spot, for that 5th spot even, and ended up just falling off of the pace. Martin Krejcirich in 12th place. Doug Cloud, who had that fight but then had that issue with the GTP, and he dropped down to 13th in the end. Torben Paulek in 14th, Jonny Berg in 15th, and then Jamie Hamill-Smith, the final driver, 1 lap down on the leaders. Henry Verimaki, 2 laps down. Richard Heinemann, 2 laps down, and then Cal Young rounding out the Audi 90 GTO field. The 19 cars, and they provided the action, I think, more than the GTPs.
Yeah, as per usual, they provide the action, and one man who we wanted to see provide the action at the front of the field today was Theo Charret, who is with us now. And Theo, it's a real good recovery drive today, but you've got to feel a little bit gutted that you couldn't be at the front there because of the hardware issues at the start of the race.
Yeah, I was quite pleased at the beginning, finishing up in P2, because I lacked a lot of practice. For several reasons, I couldn't drive as much as I wanted. So I was ready to not fight for the win, but at least to stay in the main pack. But suddenly, yeah, my game completely crashed, and I gladfully came back in time just to start at the end of the line.
Yeah, we did see you in the pit lane for a pit lane start, which was a relief to see you still on the lead lap. And it's a tough track without the chicane. It's a very slipstreamy track. And were you able to just slingshot off drivers and then use the pace? Because to get up a lot of positions here, like you had to do today from the back of the field, that's tough. So really had to use a lot of that slipstream today.
Yeah, but not that much because I spend most of the time alone, and I think I gained about half of my positions because of other crashes around the track. But yeah, I'm still fine with getting that top 10, even though I'm sure I could have gotten a better place if Ian and I would have been able to work together from the very start. So yeah, still pleased with finishing the race for once without any crash, and yeah, just moving on for the next week.
Of course, let's talk about the next week. It's an hour-long race of Road America. Everyone's got a lot of experience in long races at Road America, so do you feel that it's just going to almost be like riding a bicycle again because it's a track that everybody loves?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your. I didn't get the image you were trying to give me. But even though I'm not as experienced with that track, I know I can find some time here and there to just to work very hard on getting up to pace. And I'm not really worried about the length of the race because I'm pretty used to very, very long races for several hours.
Well, Theo, once again, merci beaucoup for coming in and joining us. Well done on your comeback through the field. We look forward to seeing you next week at Road America. Well, Theo Charret there, who came home into 9th position. And one more man, because it's always nice to talk to him. Joseph is alongside Aitor Sintez Galindo, who finished in 11th.
Yeah, Aitor, very, very good to see you racing around one of your home circuits here today. But I don't imagine that was the result you wanted, but still gained a couple of positions off the start. How would you sum up that race?
Yeah, it's a shame about the lap 1 incident, but to be fair, I've had a long streak of clean starts, a clean lap 1. So yeah, eventually it had to go the other way eventually. So, well, regardless of that, I actually finished top, 2 spots ahead of the starting position. So yeah, I'll take that event. So yeah, it's an interesting race on the Audi, let's just say, with a lot of drafting, all the stuff. Yeah, overall, not the best results. I think I could have gone with a top 10 if I didn't have the bad luck. But hey, we'll take it, and yeah, we'll move on to next week.
Yeah, and moving on to next week, it's going to be very, very interesting to be seeing the drivers and seeing yourself race around it. How are you going to be feeling about next week and about, in particular, the race that we have around Road America?
Oh, Road America. I presume it's going to be 60 minutes, the 60-minute one. So yeah, interesting. I think it's gonna be my first race in the out. No, I think I had another race with a fuel stop. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But it's gonna be interesting because of the again another track with lots of sweepers, and still something that I had to deal with the Audi. I've seen today that on the beginning of the race I pace somewhat, but then again at the end of it, I think I cooked up my tires, and I that's because of my lines through the sweepers. I think I'm more demanding on the tires, so I have to learn that for next week, because especially carousel, the kink is gonna be, oh my goodness, the kink with the with the Audi. Okay, that's gonna be an interesting point, and all the the high sweeping corners with the Audi is going to be a challenge, but I'll take that. I am enjoying a lot with the Audi. I'm going to be honest. I'm enjoying a lot more than I expected, and yeah, definitely taking the challenge to next week and take. I hope another top 10. Yeah, it's not much I can do honestly, because the top 10 guys are insanely fast. But yeah, we'll see about how it goes next week. But I hope the top 10.
Hopefully so. Well, we will be seeing you next week. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you at Road America.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the broadcast. Thanks for the interview. And yeah, see you guys next weekend around America.
Aitor Sintez Galindo there finishing in 11th. And that's going to do it for the day. So we say goodbye to Aragon once again, and we give a shout out, of course, to Joseph and Christian, and of course, Dougie. There's our lovely faces just there as well. If you do like what you see, please hit that like button, and of course, to subscribe. You don't want to miss any more action on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As we said, next week, it is Road America. It's the hour-long race. That's always going to be, Road America's classic in itself for these cars, and that's always going to be fantastic. We also have more racing this weekend because the Lotus 79s tomorrow on the iRacing channel and here will be at Willow Springs, and then we start getting ready for the rest of the week. The Porsche Owners Club at Cota, and then Skip Barber's Thursday at Interlagos before we head to the ovals next weekend with the Milwaukee Mile for the Lotus 49s. And then, of course, after that will be Road America. And that's going to be big because last time they came to Road America, Valenteus lost his 9,000 iRating. Jacob Reed was nowhere to be found. It's going to be interesting now. It's not a 6-hour race. It's going to be interesting to see what these two drivers do. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, race clean, race hard, and we will see you on the track.